Today, we are diving into the incredible pressures that Pakistan is facing. It's like a perfect storm of political cracks on the inside, a real reliance on outside money, and some intense global power plays. So let's break down how all these things are coming together to shape its future. This quote from our source material really it nails it. It perfectly captures the high stakes here. Pakistan is being squeezed from every direction, and there are absolutely no easy outs. That's the core problem we're going to explore. All right, so first things first, we've got to look inward. The real root of this crisis, it starts with Pakistan's political system, which a lot of analysts would say is, well, it's deeply fractured. So the heart of the internal problem is this idea of a hybrid system. What does that mean? Well, on the surface, it looks like a democracy, but behind the scenes, the real power is often held by unelected groups. And this creates this constant push and pull, this tension between who's actually in charge. And this kind of hybrid system, it leads directly to something called elite capture. Basically, the country's resources and its big decisions get hijacked to benefit a very small, very privileged group, instead of the general public. It's a system that's almost designed to keep things exactly as they are for the people at the top. And here you see the devastating human cost of that elite capture. Almost 45% of Pakistan's population is living below the poverty line. Now, this isn't just some abstract number. It's a huge, flashing red light that the system is failing its people. And the strain, you can see it everywhere. You have senior judges warning their own courts are at risk of just becoming rubber stamps. You have politicians being accused of trading their promises to the people for a little slice of power. And just under the surface of all of this, there's this massive, growing wave of public frustration. The whole building is starting to show some serious cracks. So next up, we're going to see how all of this internal political mess creates this pattern of economic dependency. Because these two things, they're completely connected. So rather than making the really tough, painful decisions at home, like fixing the tax system or cutting back on spending, it's often just easier for the leadership to look for a bailout from somewhere else. It's a quick fix that lets them avoid tackling the real long-term problems. This recent defense agreement with Saudi Arabia is a perfect example. Sure, it has a military side to it, but many analysts are looking at it mainly through an economic lens, seeing it as just another search for a financial lifeline to keep the whole system afloat. And all this does is create a really vicious cycle. An economic crisis pops up, they go looking for money from outside, and they get some temporary relief. But here's the kicker. Because those fundamental internal problems never get fixed, it's only a matter of time before the country finds itself right back at square one, starting the cycle all over again. Okay, so now let's zoom out a bit, because the pressures that are building up inside Pakistan, well, they've already had some explosive results for its neighbors, and that serves as a really stark warning. Right across South Asia, you have this dangerous cocktail of rising prices, not enough jobs, and people completely losing faith in their governments. And that combo, it's basically a lit fuse, just waiting for a spark. And this timeline is just, wow, it's so telling. In only 3 years, you saw 3 governments in the region basically fall because of popular uprisings. In Sri Lanka, the economy just collapsed. In Bangladesh, it was anger over jobs. In Nepal, believe it or not, a social media ban was the final straw. The triggers are different, but the root cause, that feeling of mass disillusionment, it's exactly the same. And that, of course, brings this whole regional trend right to Pakistan's doorstep. With very similar economic pains and a growing distrust from the public, this question, it's not just some theoretical exercise, it's incredibly urgent. And if all of that wasn't complicated enough, there's another massive layer to this. Pakistan is also caught in this geopolitical tug-of-war between the United States and China, and that's forcing it to walk a very, very fine line on the world stage. This chart just lays out the economic reality crystal clear. Look at this. On one side, you have China's colossal multi-billion-dollar investment through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. And on the other, you have a much smaller, though still important, recent investment from the US. The scales here are, well, they're not exactly balanced, are they? And these two superpowers are offering completely different playbooks. The US has been leaning more towards protectionism, while China is all about global investment. And Pakistan is stuck right in the middle, trying to get something out of both approaches, which is an unbelievably tricky balancing act.
So what does this actually mean? It means every single diplomatic move, every trade deal, is loaded with tension. Pakistan has to protect its deep economic relationship with Beijing, while at the same time trying to fix things with Washington. And why? To secure those very same economic lifelines we were just talking about.
So, after looking at the internal fractures, the economic realities, and the global pressures, we get to the big one, the ultimate question. What on earth is the path forward? The answer that our source material points to is pretty clear. The solution isn't going to come from Washington, or Beijing, or Riyadh. Real, true, lasting stability can only be built from the inside out, by fixing the internal system itself. And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question to think about. For a country like Pakistan that's caught in so many different crosscurrents, maybe the only way to really take control of its own destiny is to finally break that cycle of dependency and forge its own path, built on its own internal strength and reform.